It's okay. You can keep going. Hi, welcome to episode 9. Shayna was in the middle of saying something and I started recording. So here we are.
Hi.
Yeah,
we'll finish that conversation after.
We're super unprofessional and we're not podcasters.
No, we're ministers.
Well, we are technically podcasters because we put one out. Mm-hmm. But like, we obviously don't rely on this for monetary value.
Not at all.
So for all of our 16 views each week.
Thank you for all of those that listen to us.
We love you. And if we got 17 views, one at a time, that's all that matters.
I'm pretty sure half of them are probably my mom, though,
then
listening
19.
and
yeah,
re-listening.
But you know what? My mom doesn't listen to us.
Oh, well, thank you, Mom.
So
I know you'll hear this.
So your mom is better than mine.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, I'm glad she doesn't listen to the show.
Did you tell her that this exists?
No.
Well, that's why.
I'm definitely not. I would be like, hey, Mom, watch every episode except episode 9, because that's where, in the beginning, I say that someone else is better than you at being a mom. Whatever. So we just got done with the Parenting Square, which was cool. If you need a refresher on that, just hit us up. Comment.
Yes. We would love a comment.
You can go back and watch them. They were cool. The first 4 weeks, we handled a little hodgepodge of stuff of just more present circumstances, COVID and what to do, and
homeschooling.
Yeah, homeschooling. All of our kids are going to be socially awkward.
Yep.
I grew up with homeschoolers.
I married a homeschooler.
Oh, man. So now on episode 9, we're going to talk a little bit about celebrating moments in your kid's life and making sure that you celebrate them.
Yes.
I'm actually super interested by this topic, but because it's so difficult to recognize the moments sometimes, but it's also even harder to be like, oh, I'm proud of that, but then, okay, now I need to make sure they know that I'm proud of that. And celebrating the moments it's such a huge thing that your kid will remember forever.
And I think this plays into a lot of what we were talking through the Parent Square about, just that we can lean so heavily into kind of the boss world of do what I say, I'm telling you to do this because I'm the parent and all that stuff. And it's easy to let the negativity and the don't do this be the primary focus of how you raise your kids. Whereas a lot of times if you just encourage them through the positive side of things, you don't have to get into like honing in on the negative. And obviously everybody messes up and you're going to have to address those moments of the don't do this kind of stuff. But leaning into the positive experiences can make parenting a much more joyful experience. And for example, this is a very minor thing and not necessarily something on the celebrate list, but we celebrate it in our family on a regular basis, which is vegetables at dinner time. So
we celebrate those
for younger kid families. You know that sometimes vegetables are not the most positive experience at dinner. My middle kid actually likes most vegetables. Our oldest hates all vegetables. Yep. And he will only do canned green beans at this moment, which is barely a vegetable in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
And even then, 90% of the time it's a struggle. But our youngest, it's not that she doesn't like vegetables, it's that she likes everything else better.
Yeah, right.
So in order to get her to eat her vegetables, which she's like 20 months right now, we celebrate every time she puts a vegetable in her mouth. So when and she knows it now too. So like she'll play with it and then she'll pop it in and we go, yay, and clap and everything. And like it's her favorite moment of life is when we clap for her. Like that is worth celebrating in her opinion. Well, celebrating her period is good. Is good. So, but instead of us forcibly trying to get her to eat or like you're going to sit there until you finish it or that kind of stuff, like we create a celebratory moment and like the vegetables are gone in no time flat. So I think a lot of parenting is finding opportunities to celebrate your kids making good choices or having like coming of age moments.
Yeah.
So that they know where they are in life too.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something I've heard a lot through our culture the American culture is we don't really have defining moments of like you are now in this stage of life and
like a quinceañera or some sort of a bar mitzvah.
A bar mitzvah, like there are common celebrations, but because we're this melting pot, nothing gets owned by our whole society. It's only if you come from different cultural backgrounds that you would have that.
Sure.
And so a lot of times American kids just flounder, not really sure, like, so am I an adult yet? Am I not? Like, my friends say I'm an adult, but my parents say I'm not. Like, where am I in this? Or am I a teenager yet? Like, are you a teenager at age 10, 11? Is it 16?
I don't know.
When are you officially?
I think my 2.5-year-old is already kind of a teenager.
I know.
She's at a disadvantage of being a youth pastor's daughter.
I know. They hang out with all the teenagers and think they are one.
Yeah. Oof.
And get all the attention from the teenagers, too. Because they're cute.
Yeah. I think she 100% poses when she stands now. It's just everywhere
she is. For her Instagram shot?
Anywhere she is, she just poses. So, whatever. What are you going to do? But, yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, too, where each family, I don't know if I would call it a responsibility, but for a lack of a better term, it's almost like, why not sit down and decide for you? Mm-hmm. Like, we're going to talk about some big moments here in a second that you could, but like, why don't you decide for your family? Like, what are the things that are worth celebrating,
right?
And what are the things that we want to make a big deal out of?
Yeah.
Like, if it's vegetables, like, who cares how big or small it is? You know what I mean? Like, all of them are memorable,
right?
And I'm sure that if you kept doing that, at some point it would just get weird. But at the same time, it's memories, which is one of the things that we talk about in student ministries all the time. Like, if you have a chance to make something memorable, just make it memorable. Who cares if it makes you look dumb? Who cares if it's weird? Who cares if whatever? Like,
some
just
of my best memories are when I looked really stupid.
Yeah, right. And it's just because it's memorable, and your kid will remember that forever. Mm-hmm. That'll just be in their head, and you might even forget about it. Like, you might not even remember it in a few years, but like, they'll remember it, and they'll be that's what they're telling their friends about. Like, my mom still celebrates when I eat broccoli. Or in Kinley's case, she says, I don't like cauliflower. She doesn't
like flour.
I don't like it.
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, I think it's super important to just sit down maybe and even have a conversation of like, where are the things that we think are super important, super big.
And as we talk through this, I think there are two different types of mentalities to have as a parent with celebrations. So there are the things that it's like, at this age, this is when you get to be responsible for this, or you get this privilege or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter which kid, this is the age this happens in our family. Yeah. And then there are the things that when you show yourself to be responsible enough, and it can flex based on the kid and their maturity levels, at that moment you get it. And for one kid, it might be at age 10. For one kid, it might be at age 16. Like, you just have some of those really mature kids and the ones that need a couple extra years.
Yeah, girls and then boys.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, you have to also think through, is this at this age, we celebrate this thing, period? Or is it more of a, when we know you're ready for it, we celebrate this thing? And knowing which of those that it is helps you, especially once you get past kid 1.
Yeah, which brings us to some of our things that we think could be beneficial to celebrate, like following Jesus.
Yes. Following Jesus, I think, is one of the easiest, most obvious things as a Christian family.
Right.
And that definitely just depends on your kid and the age. And
yeah, it does.
I think you have to you obviously have to let your kid go at their own pace and not be like, oh gosh, my kid's 10 and they haven't done this, then I'm failing as a parent. They need to do it now. Like,
yeah,
it's never good to feel like you just need to baptize your kid so that you feel better as a parent that they're saved.
Yeah, right.
Because it doesn't work like that.
Because then they come back to Whitewater in 15 years and they were like, I got baptized once, but I didn't mean it. And now I'm getting baptized again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which don't be surprised too in this specific topic when it's an ebb and flow. Like, we see a ton of kids who are in a totally different spiritual realm, then when they kind of do this roller coaster effect in middle school of when, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but like it seems as if when they're going through the season of doubt with their school friends, like where they even start to have questions and they start asking questions, this is when it's like, well, if I ask questions, how is it real?
Right.
And so they just naturally go into that mode. But some kids, for us, have actually started putting it in the category of like, well, I started figuring out that like Santa's not real. I started figuring out that like Easter Bunny's not real, Tooth Fairy, whatever. Like my friends tell me they're not real. And so now I have friends telling me that Jesus isn't real. So like, where do I put that? And do I really believe in that? Or if I'm cool, should I believe in that? Whatever.
Right.
And so it is a total ebb and flow thing. And it's okay. It's okay to celebrate it. I think you have to have that conversation too of like, you can doubt and still believe in Jesus. Like this is fine.
And I think as a parent, share your doubts too. Like, that you don't have it all
totally
figured out. Like, I think it is very good and healthy for kids to realize, oh, my 30, 40, 50-year-old parent, role model, grandparent, they've been believing for how long and they still don't have this thing figured out or know all the answers. And it's okay to not know all the answers.
Yeah. And so it's cool to have it's cool to kind of look at it as like just, okay, here's an ebb and flow and kind of like a roller coaster of the spiritual journey. And it's okay probably to celebrate this more than once of like, hey, dude, I noticed like you're completely on fire at like 9 and then not so much at 10 or 12 when things are weird. And then dude, I'm so glad you came back at 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
To where or whatever. Or not even coming back, just doubting. You're still there the whole time. It's just telling them that they're there.
Yeah, and I think with this, a couple things just to note on this journey of things to celebrate. So when you're a young family and you're raising your kids in the church, I think it can be difficult to know, so when should my kid get baptized? Should it be like once they're 16 and they've had all the doubts and they still want to be a Christian? Or should it be when they're 5 and they say, I love Jesus and I want him to live in my heart? And I think I think the important thing is not to put an age on it. I know some families did. I found out recently my grandma put an age limit on my dad. Like he had to be so old before he got baptized. I think it was like 8 or 9 or something like that. And like when on his birthday, like he went and he did the thing. But I think the understanding that celebrating your kid decides they want to love Jesus forever, whether that is 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, that is a celebration to have.
Right.
But I always talk with parents when we're talking baptism, especially with younger kids. The baptism stage when you raise your kid in the church is that transitionary moment of I want to be in charge of my faith. So can they read their Bible on their own? Are they initiating conversations? Are they wanting to go to church? Are they telling friends about Jesus? Like all of those are kinds of things that mark, okay, they're kind of owning their faith now. So if they want to get baptized, like let's celebrate in that moment with that. And then I was a kid that recommitted in my teenage years because I mean, I knew what the baptism thing was about in my faith. But obviously I went through seasons of doubt and I was like, I realized I'm like, oh, I'm not being good enough, which that's a whole nother conversation, but I'm not being good enough or living up to what I said I wanted to be. And so I recommitted. And I think those are moments to celebrate too, that, okay, you're back on for owning your faith and let's celebrate that.
Yeah. What I was thinking about while you were talking about that and that I thought was super interesting is I tend to lean, and I think my parents were this way, which is why I lean this way, on like a super lenient, I have a lenient personality anyway, but like a super lenient parent in a sense of like when you're ready for that, you'll kind of tell me or like I'll see signs of it or something like, but I'm going to let it run its course of like how this is going to play out. And I think on the flip side, the other way is like it is super important for your kid to own their own faith and do their own thing. But it's also your job as a parent in that to still tell them what is super important.
Right.
And I think so like for me on the flip side, like I followed Jesus when I was younger. And then I was never really talked to about baptism ever. So it wasn't that I probably would have got baptized. I probably would have thought that was a big deal. But it was just kind of like when you want to do it, you'll do it. Mm-hmm. But it was never like, it was also never conveyed like,
would you like to do this
do you realize how important this is? Like, do you realize how big of a deal this is? Mm-hmm. So sometimes, like, what I was thinking was sometimes it's super important to what you have dictated, or for us, what our Bible has dictated, as really, really important, or the things that you're going to celebrate. You should also tell your kids even before then, way before then, like you should be setting up their next steps.
Yep.
Of like, this is how important baptism is for you. And I get that you're not ready for that yet, and that's fine. But like, this is how awesome baptism is for us as Christians.
Right. And one of the things that I always tried to do with all kids, my own and others, is let them see baptisms, let them see these things that we say are important to our faith. Because that's what causes the questions. It's not you having to be like, and this is why we get baptized in the Bible, and like super lecture mode. It lets them see and experience it and be like, okay, so why are we doing that, and why are we saying that, and why? And you can be like, so what do you think? And ask more of the leading, like, processing kind of questions, so you can see. And like when our kids first came to the house, I don't even remember how it came up, but I think we might have been just talking about church, and somehow baptism came into that. And our oldest is like, well, I want to get baptized. And I'm like, you've been with us for less than 24 hours. Like, maybe we'll talk about this more.
Yeah.
And so we have had conversations around that and stuff. But it's giving them the opportunity to see and experience it and ask questions from that versus just lecture mode, which causes a disconnect and a disinterest sometimes, I think.
Yeah. So moving on from some church world ones, but like potty training.
Oh, we're starting that experience right now.
Actually, Kinley was super easy. I don't know, that probably means second kid's gonna be horrible, but like Kinley was like, I want to go potty in the potty. Like, she just said it.
I keep telling our youngest does not like diaper changes, and so every time she throws a fit, I was like, well, if you would go pee in the potty, then you wouldn't have to wear a diaper. Like, I'm trying to get her to connect those two things, and I haven't decided if she actually understands like the pee poopy words, or if she just realizes mom gives me attention when I say these words, so I'm going to say them so mom will stop paying attention to this other thing. And
like my brothers.
There might be some manipulation happening. Not even that. Like, usually it's like I'm cooking and stuff and I can't hold her. And she's like, Mommy, pee. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't believe you.
I don't. She has yet to identify correctly.
Right. That is the worst thing about everything in the younger kid category, because you're like, I don't believe you, but I have to respect that you said this, and so we're going to go sit on the potty for 30 minutes while you play.
Yeah.
On the potty.
Yep.
It's annoying.
We put her on there every night, and we're hoping, I'm just waiting for at least the first time so I can celebrate that, because if I feel like if she does it once and I celebrate that, she's going to be all in because she loves us celebrating her. So I need that one first time to give her that experience of celebratory moment.
Celebrate that
and then we can move on with our life, I think. But
or the big kid bed.
That's another. I know I don't know when we're going to I'm hoping to keep her in the crib until she can climb out of it, which she hasn't attempted yet. So we'll see.
Kinley never slept in a crib.
Really?
No.
Well, you seem disappointed by that. Was she in a big kid bed from day one? Or?
Almost. Almost.
Old soul.
Yeah, and even then.
She visits in the night a lot, doesn't she?
She doesn't visit us. She makes Ariel visit her, and she won't let her leave.
Oof.
Which means I have a king-size purple mattress all by myself. A lot.
The first month we had our youngest, there was a lot of nights on the couch. That's what she preferred, and the only way that I could sleep, kind of, and she would stay asleep. So.
And I feel like everyone's parenting journey is totally different.
I know, on what your kid will and won't let you do for the first year and a half, 2 years.
10 years, 12, 18 years, whatever it is.
But
now that they're in high school.
We digress. Let's talk about celebration.
Starting school.
I know that this is
a big deal.
I applaud the parents that are forward thinking enough which I am not one of them, to do the first day of school, last day of school pictures
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
the comparison and all that stuff. And I should do a last day of school with our oldest.
Yeah.
Because, it's
Well,
over now.
And I think even in this, there's preparation for some. There's preparation for some celebrations. Like Kinley is a huge Daniel Tiger fan. She loves Daniel Tiger. Freaks out. Absolutely loves him.
BFFs.
Only every other day we watch a Daniel Tiger episode. And she even has her own hand motion. It's like she raises the roof with one hand, and that's how she signals. She's like, I want to watch Daniel Tiger.
Is she making the main?
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing, but that's how she's chooses.
Testifying.
She's like, you need to put on Daniel Tiger right now. So we watch Daniel Tiger, and they do a lot on Daniel Tiger about school, and so we talk about school a lot. Like we talk about, oh yeah, like you're 2.5 now. In a couple more years, you're going to be able to start school, and you can start going to school. And so now we're building that up of like, she's like, I want to go to school. Well, okay, cool. But like not yet. Like you don't want to go to school yet. Trust me. But like you will be able to go to school and it's going to be awesome. And so we're like building up for that celebration of the first day of school moment. So
Hopefully
I think
makes it
that's
an
super.
easier transition.
I'm hoping so. We'll find out when she has to leave her mom, and it's going to be brutal. It's going to be a wreck.
Oof.
But I think it's super important to set up even for those celebration moments, like going to middle school.
Oof. That's
Celebrate
one nobody,
that, man.
Nobody can prepare for fully. But
Talk about being a teenager now. That is, I'll stand by it forever. That is like the biggest, craziest, fattest transition in the world. It is so crazy going just from 5th grade to 6th grade in the summer of going to middle school. Whatever it is like I am no longer a little kid. I am now some sort of semi-grown up.
Well, and I think also what makes so you get to become the teenager, but at the same time you're going from being the big fish to the small fish,
Right.
As well,
yeah.
Because this is the transition where you're no longer the 5th grader. I think we still have some schools that have 6th grade and elementary, but you're no longer the oldest kid sitting in the back of the bus being cool. You're now the small little twerp.
Right. But which happens again going from 8th grade to 9th grade, and which happens again going from senior to now freshman in college, or if you go to work, you're still if they choose to work at 18, they're still the youngest one there. And so like it makes the celebratory, making a big deal, huge coming of age moment even bigger because they need it. Those are the moments in their life where they absolutely need someone to just be in their corner and to provide hope for them when it's like, I mean, I went to a high school where it was like freshman had its own building and then sophomore to senior was, so it was like you went into like a purgatory of high school, and then
we had that in middle school. 6th grade was its own building,
that
and
is
then there
so
was
weird.
a 7th and 8th grade building.
We had a 5th and 6th, and then a 7th and 8th. So every single time, like every other year, you were pretty much going into a completely new experience. But it didn't take you long to become the alpha. You just had to wait a year, and then, but nonetheless, I think it's super important to just celebrate those moments because that's when you're going to be able to provide your kid with hope.
Yeah.
So.
And so obviously there are some spiritual moments and there's some parenting moments, and I think it's always good when possible to merge those two things of spiritual and practical parenting. I think I said spiritual twice, but spiritual and practical parenting. So obviously potty training is not necessarily a spiritual moment.
Sure.
So, and it might be harder to include some stuff, but like the middle school transition, that's a practical moment that happens in your kid. There's no stopping it. It is this time. Like your kid is going to make this transition. So equipping them and preparing them with their faith as best you can as a parent, and helping them understand where they stand as far as what they own still, what you own. This goes back to the parenting square,
right?
And celebrating with them that now you're able to do XYZ, or now you are in charge of this thing. I feel like it might have been around the middle school years for us, but my parents were no longer going to wake me up in the morning. Like, here's your alarm clock. You are now responsible for getting yourself out of bed and getting downstairs for breakfast before the school bus comes. Like, Mazel tov. And obviously there were still those times where my dad's like, Shannon, are you
Yeah.
awake? Like,
Yeah.
yep, I'm awake, Dad. And I just snoozed 15 times, but I'm awake. But I mean, giving some of those clear moments of, okay, now you are responsible for this thing that it used to be me, but you're old enough now that this is you.
Yeah, and handing off some of that
And
responsibility.
handing it off.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about the natural transitions in life as well. So celebrate graduation; it's a big deal. Even for us, we're trying to figure out ways to celebrate our graduates this year at Whitewater in a different way, obviously, because we have to.
And if you're a really proactive parent, this is a really cool idea. Have you seen the the Places You'll Go books?
Yes.
That people start in kindergarten and have like everybody that's ever meant anything to their kid write in it and
Right.
then give it to them at graduation. I don't think I have that much brain capacity to remember
Me
that.
neither.
But if you're one of those parents, like, go be that awesome. Like,
Yeah, no joke.
I would have loved to have one of those things.
Keep making the rest of us feel bad about
yeah.
ourselves. Yeah.
You Pinterest parents of the world, like,
Right.
props to you right
You
now.
trendy moms. You guys are awesome. But but also celebrate the things that are like what's wrong? It sounds weird, but what's wrong with celebrating puberty, or what's wrong with celebrating just like sex ed, or just some sort of body image stuff. You know what I mean? And your kids coming of age, they also change and their body changed, and just celebrating that I think is a huge deal.
Yeah, and I've heard of families doing like dates with both their same gendered kids and their opposite gender, because I
Yeah.
need to learn things from my mom that is specifically I need to learn them from my mom.
Right.
And
And honestly, you don't want your dad to teach you that.
right.
We're super bad at that kind of thing.
If you're a family that you don't have a mom, you're the dad and you don't have the mom, or your grandpa and don't have grandma or mom around, like find a strong woman role model for your coming of age, middle school teen girl that you're like,
Yeah.
I would love you to become this person when you're older, and set up times for them to mentor.
Like a student ministry small group.
Correct. Well, and my
Shameless
dad's
plug.
dad, my dad's dad passed away when he was like second grade. So he didn't have a dad growing up, but my grandma was very intentional about making sure there were male role models in
Yeah.
my dad's life, both from their family and from their church. And my dad's youth group was a big part of his life. So yes, there are things you can't replace,
Right.
but being intentional where you can makes up a lot of that difference.
Yeah.
But also opposite gender. Like I want my husband to instill in my daughter that, you can't trust every guy because this is what guys are like.
Yeah.
And I want him to treat our daughter so well that she has a very high expectation for what her future husband should be like.
Right.
And I want my kids to see what our relationship is like so that they have a high expectation of what marriage should be like and family life should be like, and not settle for anything less than that. And so
Yeah.
having these moments of celebration, and that kind of stuff can start at a very young age too. Like you've seen the preschool
Oh, yeah.
daddy-daughter dates
Yep.
and things like that. And that's something we should probably start putting into our own life, our family rhythm. We have not done that yet, but quarantine.
For Valentine's Day, make sure you take your wife to White Castle because
Why?
you can sign up for a table. You were just talking about treating your spouse super well, so that way your kids
Yeah.
remember it. High expectations. White Castle.
You know what? I think my husband said stuff like this to me before, and I just tell him that's don't do that. Like I'm being a very obvious woman right now. Like, don't do that.
Yeah. I'll let you know after next February how it works. White Castle's awesome. Take your kids to White Castle.
That could be a daddy-daughter date. I don't have to
could.
be there for those daddy-daughter dates, so go for it.
Yeah, Kinley loves chicken rings, so it works.
There you go. But you can start instilling in your kids at a very young age, like healthy relationships and what to look forward to, and just setting those expectations before they get to the dating stage, and talking about, I love mommy, so I treat her like this, and you, and even to the boys, like, you don't treat women like this, and you, like, girls, you don't expect this from God. Like you
Yeah.
can have all those kinds of conversations within a healthy family dynamic without it being all about dating.
Right.
And so you're laying down good foundation for healthy relationships early.
True. Well, we've gone it way over, but that's okay.
If you're still with us, thank you.
Because
for
we like
listening to
celebrating our
rambling.
children.
We do.
So if you have a great idea or something that you use to celebrate your kid, please drop this in the comments, because I would be super interested to read how parents celebrate their kids.
I'd like some additional ideas too.
Yeah, I would also like to steal your ideas, but nothing that takes 18 years though. That might be difficult for me. But anything else, that'd be super awesome. Drop it in the link. We would love to read it. I'm sure it'd be an awesome resource for other parents to read as well. This is the end of episode 9, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.